We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph and Meseches Bava Metzia. This is Bava Metzia Daf 12a. The Gemara is continuing with Rav Ashi's answer. Rav Ashi is explaining why it is that by get, when a get is given to a woman in her chutzner, she has to be standing right next to the chutzner, but that's not true in other situations of das acheres makna. Let's say a gift is being given to the person. They don't need to be standing right next to the chutzner. And Rashi already explained this on the previous Amud, and the Gemara here now says, Chatzar is raboy misham yad v'lo garam mishlichus. The idea is that a chatzar is considered to be a yad, it's considered to be an extension of the person's hand, but it's no worse than a shliach. And so therefore, gabe get the chovula, when it comes to a get where it's something that is bad for her, so ein chavin la'adam ela b'fanav, so you can't do something bad for a person unless they're right there, and therefore if she's not right next to the chatzar, it's going to be a problem, it's not going to be able to act as a shliach. But gabe matana de zechusu lava, when it comes to a gift which is something that is good for the person, so zachin la'adam shelo b'fanav, we can do something good for a person even when he's not present, and that's why he doesn't need to be standing right next to the chatzar. And Rashi explains, "Gavi matana de zechusu lo zachin lo la'adam shelo b'fanav v'shalom idaitu." Even if he has no idea, we can do it on his behalf. The anon sahadi denicho le shetei shlucha, because over there we have an anon sahadi. It is obvious to us that he wants his chatzar to act as a shliach. In that case, hilkach kilese b'tzad chatzera. Therefore, when he's not right next to his chatzar, the leko ledemuye liyada, where it's not considered a yad, an extension of the hand, de'ena smuchala, it's not near her. Tepek la zechiyasa mishlichusa, but still she's able to acquire if it's a situation where shlichus could work. Just like a person shliach can acquire something for him even if he's not there, if he's not present. The same thing is true when it comes to a chatzar. Umiyu gavi Metziah, and Rashi finishes off, nevertheless, when it comes to a Metziah, which is not das acheres makna, here you're getting something from hefker, ki lesa gaba, so there, if you're not by the chatzar, de lo nafka zechiyasa misham yad, where it's not an extension of the hand, so lekal rebuya mishlichas, you can't say that the person's going to acquire the hefker, the Metziah, through the concept of shlichas, de gabe shlichas, ika das hasholeach, o das hashliach, o das shliach, because when you have shlichas, you have to have some kind of das, either the knowledge of the person appointing the shliach, or the knowledge of the shliach. The chatzar is not able to think for itself. Aval chatzar leka lo das shaleach v'lo das shliach. When it comes to the chatzar, you don't have that. Hilkach bin das acheres makno. So that's why by chatzar, at the very least, you're going to need das acheres, somebody that's giving it over, that's putting it into the chatzar. And the Gemara continues, Gufa, returning to what we said above, Ra'osan ratzan achar Metziah v'chulu. Again, a person sees people running after Metziah, and the animal, let's say that's the Metziah, is now in his courtyard, so he wants his courtyard to acquire it. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yirmiyah said that Rabbi Yochanan said, V'husha ratz achareinu magin. This only works if he's in theory able to run after the animal and reach it before the animal leaves his chutzner. And the Gemara then says, Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah, we saw this in the previous Amar. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked on this, B'matana hech. So what about by matana? Would we say the same requirement that you have to be able to run after it and reach it? Kibla minei Rabbi Ava bar Kahana, and Rabbi Ava bar Kahana accepted this as a valid distinction. Afal pi sheratz acharein ve'ein magin. When it comes to matana, even if he runs after it, he's not able to reach it. There, since you have again das acheres, the kinyan is going to work. And so the Gemara continues. Boy, Rava asked the following question: Zarak arniki bepesach zeh v'yotza bepesach acher. Let's say a person throws a purse through one door, through one opening, and it goes out the other door. Rashi says, Zarak arniki v'hifkiru l'chol hakodim. The case over here specifically is he throws it and he makes it hefker to whoever gets it first. So in that situation, what's the halacha? Avir she'in sofa lanuach kemunach dami. Do we say that this is a situation of airspace where it is not going to come to rest over there? So do we say that that's considered to be nevertheless kemunach dami? It's considered as if it's at rest. Or lower, do we not say that? And Rashi explains, she'in sofa lanuach besocha avir. It's obviously not going to rest within this particular area. Kemunach dami, but maybe we say it's still considered like it's at rest. V'kanu balabayas harishon olav kemunach dami. And if you're going to say it's kemunach, he would acquire it. If not, it's not going to be an acquisition. Lahachi boy aver shein sofa lanuach besoch habayis kemunach dami. Now the reason why we're asking about aver shein sofa lanuach within a house, whether it's kemunach dami, dilu aver sheyas sofa lanuach. The idea is as follows. Let's say it would come to rest within the house. Besoch habayis, within the house, it's going to come to rest. Pshitalan diafilu kadam ishacher v'kol besoch aver. There, it's obvious. Even if somebody else would come along and catch the object while it's still in the air, lo kana, he would not acquire it. The misha nichnas la'aver, once it gets into the airspace of the house and it's going to come to rest in the house, kano balabais. At that moment already, the balabais is going to acquire it. The tanan that we learned in the Mishnah by Meseches Gittin, Meseches Gittin, haisa omedes berosh hagag. The case over there is she's standing on the top of a roof. V'zarak lo get, he throws to her get. Kevan shenichnas la'aver hagag, once it reaches the airspace of the roof, hareza mugureshes, at that moment she's already divorced. Hu lamala v'hi lamata, let's say it's the other way around, he's on top, she's below. Kevan shiyatza mereshus hagag, nimchak o nisraf, hareza mugureshes. Once again, it leaves the reshus of the roof, it's in her reshus. If it then gets erased or it's burned, she is still considered to be divorced. So again, that is obvious that if it is going to come to rest in the house, it will be a kinyan. The whole question is, if it's aver she'ein sofal anuach, what's the halacha? And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rav Papa l'Rava, Rav Papa said to Rava, v'amri la Ravada bar Masna l'Rava, some say it's Ravada bar Masna that said to Rava, v'amri la Ravina l'Rava, some say it's Ravina that said to Rava, lav hainu masnisin, this question that you're asking about aver she'ein sofal anuach, isn't that exactly the case of the Mishnah? Ra osan rotzen achar Metziah, again, the case over there is he sees that people are running after a Metziah. V'yamar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, v'husha rotz achareinu magian, and Rabbi Yirmiyah said that Rabbi Yochanan said that if he wants his chutzner to create the kinyan, he has to be able to run after it and reach it. Uboy Rabbi Yirmiyah v'matana, and then Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, what's the halacha if it would be given as a gift, not hefker? V'kibla minei Rabbi Ava bar Kahana b'matana, and then Rabbi Ava bar Kahana accepted the distinction by matana, afal pisha rotz acharein ve'ein magian. Even if he would run after it, he wouldn't be able to reach it. It still would be considered to be an acquisition. And Rashi explains, ve'eino magian alma misgalgalim v'yotzim hein. You see, this is exactly the same case. These things are rolling, they're going to be leaving the reshus, ve'ein sofan lanuach, and they're not really going to come to rest. V'kamar dekana leisadeu, and we're saying over there that the field, in fact, will create the acquisition. And so therefore over here as well, it should be considered an acquisition. Amar Lei said to him, misgalgel koamet, you're bringing a proof from misgalgel, meaning that's not really in the air. There it's on the ground but moving. Shani misgalgel de chemunach dami. In the case of misgalgel where something is rolling, that's already as if it is kemunach. So meaning in that situation when you have a matana, so there, yeah, we say it's considered to be that it's at rest, but that has nothing to do with our case where it's avir shein sofel anuach, where it's going through the airspace. That already could be more problematic. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Metzias beno vito haketanim. Let's say you have a found object by his son or his daughter, but they're minors. Metzias avdo v'shivchaso haknanim. Let's say something is found by his slave or by his shivcha, his maidservant, that they're kananim, they're non-Jewish slaves. Metzias ishto, or let's say something is found by his wife. Harei elu shalo. In all of these situations, the item belongs to him. In contrast, Metzias beno vito hagadolim. Let's say something is found by his son or his daughter who's an adult. Metzias avdo v'shivchaso ivrim, or let's say it's found by his Hebrew slaves. Metzias ishto shager. Let's say it's something that's found by his wife, but he divorced her. Afal pishalon nasan ksuba, even though he didn't yet give her ksuba, hareelu shalahen. In all of these situations, it belongs to them. And Rashi explains, Metzias beno bito hakatanim beno katan mefarish begemar mefarish ma'taima. When it comes to his son that's a minor, that's going to be explained in the Gemara what the reason is. Bito hakatanim, now when it comes to his daughter that's a minor, bechsubas yalfinan lamikroi, that we learn in Meseches ksubas from Sukkim, the katana v'afnara kol shvachin urela avia. The halach is by a minor, but even by a nara who's an older girl, anything that during that time period where she's a nara, anything that she profits, that goes to her father. Metzias avdo v'shivchaso hakananim shalo, the Metzias of the non-Jewish slaves belong to him, Sharei Gufo Konilo Elamis, because there he has a forever acquisition of these slaves. Kedechsivis Nachaltem, that's learned from the pasuk. Metzias Ishto Rabbanan Takinu Le Mishum Eva. When it comes to his wife, that's a din midir Rabbanan. The Rabbanan say that he gets it, otherwise it causes hatred. Metzias Avdo V'Shevchaso Ivrim. When it comes to the found objects of his Hebrew slaves, Begamar Parach Lo Yehei Lapol. Now the Gemara will ask on this: the Hebrew slaves should be no better than a worker. Damrinan Le'el Metziaso LeBalabais. We said earlier that the found object of a pole of a worker actually goes to the balabais. So the Gemara will ask, why is it different by an Eved Ivri? Why is it different by an Omaho Ivriya? And the Gemara says, Amar Shmuel says, what is the reason that they say that a Metziah of a boy that's a minor goes to his father? It's a lava, because when he finds the item, he actually brings it over to his father. There's no delay in terms of that. And Rashi says, I understand his daughter, I understand his wife, that's all explaining subas. But when it comes to his son, what's the reason? And again, the answer is Maritza, it's a love if he brings it to his father. Therefore, when he picked it up, essentially, he was picking it up for his father, and that's why the kinyan goes to his father. And the Gemara says, Lamemer, does that mean to say that the Savar Shmuel, that Shmuel holds Katan Lesle Zechil and Avshe Midoraisa, that a Katan on a Doraisa level, he's not able to acquire something for himself? Vatanya, but we learned in a Braisa, Hasocher Sapoa, let's say a person hires a worker, Yilket Beno Acharav, his son is able to collect after him, but Lemechza L'shlish Vilaravia, but let's say he hires the worker and the worker is taking a share, he's taking half or a third or a quarter, so Lo Yilket Beno Acharav, then his son is not allowed to collect after him. Rabbi Yossi says, Ben kach uven kach yilkat beno v'ishto achrav. In all situations, his son and his wife, they're able to collect after him. V'yamar Shmuel halacha Rabbi Yossi. And Shmuel says on that, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. And Rashi explains, yilkat beno achrav means to say as follows. Mutter livno shel poel. We're talking here about the son of the worker. Im onihu, and we're talking about a situation where the worker is poor, so that son is able, lilkot acharav ves leket hanosher, he can take the leket. This is talking about the halachas of leket, shich, and peah. The leket actually belongs to the poor, and the point is the son is able to take that. Avolim kibel hapoel as asada lemechser l'shlish v'lerevia. But let's say the worker is actually working and he owns a share of the produce. He's going to get half or a third or a quarter, so then he's not poor. Then Asher, who then he's considered wealthy, v'areu kibal abayis beside this, he's like the owner of the field. He has a portion. If there he's not able to collect after, because anything the son collects really goes to the father, and when the father's wealthy, he's not entitled to leket, so the son cannot collect. That was the opinion of the Tanakama. Rabbi Yossi said it doesn't matter, ben kach uven kach, doesn't matter if the father is wealthy, even if the father is wealthy, the son is poor. Therefore he's able to get it for himself, and Shmuel said the halacha was like Rabbi Yossi, so it sounds like a katan is able to collect for himself. He's able to take ownership of items for himself. And that's what the Gemara says. Now, if you're going to say correctly that a katan is able to acquire for himself, so when he's collecting the leket, it's for himself. And anything the father gets, he's getting from the son who was allowed to acquire. And again, Shmuel is following the sheet of Rabbi Yossi. But if you're going to say a katan is not able to acquire for himself, so then he's really collecting for his father. So avua ashiru, but in this case, when his father has a share of the produce, he's wealthy. Why should it be that his wife and his son should be able to collect after him? And the Gemara says to this, Shmuel taima detana didan ka'amar. When Shmuel above, when he said this idea above, he actually was just saying, he was explaining our Mishnah. And in the explanation of our Mishnah, he was saying that a katan is not able to be zocha for himself. Rather, anything he picks up, immediately he brings it over to his father. However, v'lei lo svirale, but Shmuel himself doesn't hold like that. Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yossi, that really there is a kinyan, the katan is able to make a kinyan. And Rashi explains, Taima detana didon ka'amrim if nema amrim mitzias katan liyav, meaning Shmuel is explaining the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that anything that the katan finds goes to his father, and the idea is he doesn't acquire for himself, he brings it immediately to his father. However, v'lei lo svirle the mitzias katan liyav, but he, Shmuel, does not hold that mitzias katan goes to his father. That's why he really holds like Rabbi Yossi when it comes to the case of leket. But the Gemara continues, V'savar Rabbi Yossi katan islay zechia midoraisa. But does Rabbi Yossi really hold that a katan can acquire something for himself on a doraisa level? Vatnan, but we learned in a Mishnah. Metziah cheresh of a katan. Let's say a cheresh of a katan, a deaf mute or an imbecile or a minor. If they find something, yesh bohen mishum gezel amnei darchei shalom. The only reason you can't take it away from them, the only reason it's considered stealing to take it away from them, is just because darchei shalom, we want to keep the peace, meaning to say they can't really acquire. And Rabbi Yossi says gezel gomer. It's fully considered stealing. Now it sounds like Rabbi Yossi is saying the same thing, that there's a zechia midoraisa. However, v'yamar Rav Chisda said on Rabbi Yossi, gezel gomer midivrei, and it doesn't really mean it's a doraisa stealing, because again, they can only acquire on a derabanan level, even according to Rabbi Yossi. It just means on a derabanan level, if you steal from them, it's considered fully like stealing on a derabanan level. Nafkamina lahotziu b'dayanim. Now the difference is, if it's both derabanan, darchei shalom is derabanan, and gezel gomer of Rabbi Yossi is derabanan, what's the difference? The difference is, can you go to the courts and get it back? If you hold it's gezel gomer, you can go to the courts and get it back. But in any case, you see that the acquisition of a katan is only going to be midrabanan. And so the question again is, if that's the case, why is it that this katan, in a case where the father is wealthy, why is the katan allowed to take the leket? Elamar Abaya, rather Abaya says a totally different reason by leket. It's like a situation where the nemushos have went through a field. The nemushos were the last ones to collect the leket. Once that last group of aniyim go through the field, it's as if the aniyim are done and they're done collecting, and then anyone can actually take the leket, even wealthy people. Over here also, even though it's not a case of nemushos, but here also, when people see the son going right after the father, all the aniyim essentially are scared off. They don't go collect, and therefore it's like it's totally hefker. Even someone wealthy can then take the leket. The aniyim gufayu maschi datayu. The aniyim themselves have already given up hope. They're not paying any attention anymore to this particular field. Savri braid deheich malakti, because they figure the son of this guy is just going to collect everything. But the Gemara says to that, Rav Ada bar Masna le Abaya. Rav Ada bar Masna said to Abaya, how can that be a reason why he's allowed to collect? Would it be mutter for a person to put a lion inside his field so that the poor people see it and they run away, and now he's able to collect all of the leket because poor people won't take it anymore because there's a lion? That's the equivalent over here where the son is following his father. So that's not a good answer. So Ela Amar Rava, rather Rava says, and Rashi explains, all Rabbi Yochanan is saying is that yes, it is derabanan, but they're very strict about the derabanan. You can even get this money back in the court system. If goes to lesanim, and again, since on a doraisa level, really the son is not being zoch, it's going to the father. So isn't the father stealing from the aniyim because again he's wealthy? And so the Gemara answered to that. Rather Abaya says Rabbi Yossi nami ketana didon svirle the katan lesle zechia. Again, Rabbi Yossi holds like our Tana that a katan is not able to acquire. The reason by leket, why is the son able to take it? To kaven the yeshlo lepol zabonim v'isha, since this worker has sons, he has wives, aniyim atzman miyashi, the actual aniyim they give up hope anyway. Mileket shala, they're figuring they can't take leket from this field. Lefika chasua kasad shalchu ba nemushos. Therefore, it's the equivalent of a field where the nemushos, again, that's the last people to take from the leket. They've already went through the Tanan. We learned in the Mishnah Me'emas I called them mutar beleket. At what point in time can anyone take the leket? Mishayelchu ba nemushos. That's once the nemushos go through the field. Lakute basar lakute. That refers to the collectors after the collectors. To mehi shaita maschu aniyim datayomine. From that point in time, the aniyim have already stopped paying attention to this field. V'achanami maschu datay v'chulu. Here also, they're no longer paying attention, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Beis Amid Beis.